Hello and welcome to this video on how to put your reed on your mouthpiece. Now to do this you're going to need three things. You're going to need your mouthpiece, you're going to need your reed, and you're going to need your ligature. And your ligature probably looks like this, where it's got two screws and it's made of metal. It's possible that it looks like this, where it could be leather or some type of fake leather with maybe one screw or two screws. And I'll show you how to put this one on. This one is specifically for saxophones, but they definitely have it for clarinets as well. First, we've talked about, if you didn't watch it, please watch the video on taking the reed out safely and how to put it away safely. But this is going to go into your mouth for about 2 minutes or so to get it nice and wet before we play it. And we're going to put in the side that's up here, not the side that has on this reed the wood backing. Some of them are very much the same color, but we're going to put the thin end in, and we're only going to put it in about halfway or so. I've had students that put the entire reed in their mouth. That is not needed, probably isn't good for the reed, so just go for this first part right there. While the reed is soaking in your mouth, you can take a look at what's going on here. We have our mouthpiece. The cork is going to attach to the other part of the clarinet. We have our open part of the barrel tone hole right there for the clarinet. And when the reed is ready, we're going to take the flat side of the reed, which is the bottom of it. And if you need to know which side is flat, just put it down on a table carefully and it should lay flat. If you put the other side down, it probably rocks back and forth a little bit. Put the flat side of the reed onto the mouthpiece, and you're going to notice that the top of the reed and the top of the mouthpiece are curved, and the curve should match up really well. And then we're going to get as close as possible to the top. Now I'm going to hold this here. I'm going to try not to let it move. Your first couple times it will move around a lot. Let's flip it over. Does it line up on the back? Oop, I just moved it, so now it doesn't. There we go. So you can see, if I tilt it up just a tiny bit, you can see just a tiny bit of the reed right behind the mouthpiece. If I flip it over this way, it's going to look very much the same, where we have just a little bit of the mouthpiece at the top there that we can see. This is where it gets a little bit harder as a beginner. You're going to try and hold that in place while we put the ligature onto the mouthpiece to hold the reed in place. Now I want you to notice, and this isn't easy to see, there is a smaller end and a bigger end. You can see when I hold it this way, this smaller end down here on bottom, you can see the entire way. When we look at it from the smaller end, I can actually hide the rest of the ligature really well. You want to make sure that you put the bigger end on first, and you're going to go straight over the reed and the mouthpiece. And you're going to push it down. I want to show you what happens if you've got the smaller end going first. If you try and do the smaller end on first, it really doesn't want to go on. Now I probably need to loosen up the screws anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. But the smaller end really is going to cause you problems. To loosen up the ligature, just turn the screws. I want you to pay a lot of attention right here. You can see this screw getting smaller and smaller as it pulls through. I don't want to undo it. So right there, right when it's at the tip of the of that part of the screw, we're going to stop. Same thing on bottom, just loosen it up so that we don't have any problem getting the ligature over the reed, the mouthpiece. All right, here we go again. Try and get lined up. Hold it in place. Big end over first. Ligature has been loosened up. Slides down, slides down, slides down, and we're gonna get pretty far down. Now on this mouthpiece, there is a nice line right here, and I want to make sure I get past that line. It is really common for beginners to, especially if the screws are too tight, to not get far enough on. You can see right there, you can see how this ligature hasn't actually made it all the way on. So we want to go all the way on, down past that line. We should be down past that line by, I don't know if it's a 1/4 inch, but maybe around there. Okay, now here comes the tricky part. Get that reed lined up again because it moves around on you. That looks pretty good. I'm going to check the backside to make sure it's not sticking up. It's all right. And we will readjust the ligature. I want to show you 2 important things once we get these screws tightened on. So if your screws are really loose like I had mine, you may have to tighten them up a little bit. You'll kind of get used to how much you have to undo the screws to get your ligature on. Okay, as I'm doing it one, we're going to make sure that the reed is still lined up as mine had moved around. So before you tighten it all the way, double check the top. Double check to make sure that that reed really lines up well with the top of the mouthpiece. Number 2, and this is another mistake, and I'm not even thrilled with mine right now. We want to try and get the dead center of these screws right here lined up with the dead center of the reed. And you can see that my ligature has slid over just a little bit this way to the right. So I'm going to try and adjust that slightly by undoing the screws, turning my ligature just a tiny bit, readjusting the reed now, and that's better. Okay, so when you have your reed set up on your mouthpiece, this is what we should be looking at. Take a look at the top up here. That reed is really close to the top. Lines up well with it. It's not sticking out the back. And I have the screws, the opening really close to centered on the mouthpiece. The saxophone sets up the exact same way. You're going to want to soak the reed first. And I'm specifically showing you the leather one that I've got. Gonna have to undo the screw. So undo the screw, open up. Oh, there it was. I just needed to open it up. Slides over the top, all the way down, past the line. This is a saxophone mouthpiece, and there's a line. So get past that line, get that reed lined up, and then hold the reed in place while you are tightening up the mouthpiece, the ligature. If you are unsure about your leather or fake leather ligature and which side the screw goes on, send me a flip grid and I'll take a look at it. Make sure to show me what you have so that I can help you out with that. So on this one, the screws are going to go back against the top of it. And on my saxophone reed, it does hang out the bottom. You can see it hangs out the bottom past this little cutoff a little bit and hangs out. And that is okay. That's all right. There you go. I've got it nice and tight. It's not going to move around on me while I'm playing. I'm not going to have to worry about resetting that. If it moves around, your screws are not tight enough. Good luck. I look forward to seeing your videos of your setup.